swarms of bees in the top box. They're drawing a little comb. I saw some white up there. Boy, they're real light. That one's laying up the drone brood. There's some varroa. Not much. I only saw those two, which I know there's more than that, don't get me wrong. But there's some varroa, yeah. What's up, everybody? Seth Hill down in Hayhira today. We are definitely not in Rabun County anymore. I got about 62 colonies down here. I'm just going to try to finish up distributing what little comb I have left into them, or onto them, make them double deeps. There should be quite a bit of food in some of these tops, so if we're really hurting for food in one, I'll pull a few frames out and give it liquid feed. Not everybody's going to have a feeder in there. I'm not entirely too concerned about that because some of these are probably going to be ready to bust out at the seams, which is fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm starting from this end this time. Last few times I've been down, I always started at that end, and there was always more resources at that end, so I'm going to mix it up this time. Put quite a few pellets in here, so I'm going to get this sucker going. Yeah, that would be good. Okay, let's begin. I don't know if y'all can see me real good or not. Well, looks pretty good. Most of these, what I'm going to do is just pop the top box here, check for weight and cells, and that's light, which is fine. That probably means I see a little bit of drone brood there, so that one's just going to get some feed. They're good, solid. Don't necessarily have to check brood patterns. They all look good last time. I think that one was one I put an empty box on. This is what we're looking at. About 3 or 4 frames in the top and full bottoms. Last time I was here, I pushed most of the brood down in the bottom, maybe a food on the wall or a pollen or something, and then that's what we got up top. So they're pretty good sized, and these are the smallish ones. The ones on down the line got bigger as I went. These feeders are empty. I didn't see any liquid in either one of them, so the bees are needing the feed for sure. And whatever's left, I'll just dribble on the colony. And this syrup is thick too. It's not 1 to 1. It's more like 1.5 to 1. Golly, that's a box of bees. So that'll be good for putting on a little bit of weight. They were light in the top. I'm gonna go ahead and top off their feeder. Not going to have a lot of food to split with, oddly enough. I'm going to have a lot of brood, not a lot of food. But that's okay. I can deal with that. I'll be back in 10 days, so whenever I go to graft, I'm going to come back and feed everybody, so they'll be absolutely slap full as they can be. We'll see how it goes. They're probably using a lot of this to go straight into the brood nest with. Golly. What a box of bees. My oh my, look at that. Okay, so we're going to work the yard kind of like that. If it's a small single, I'll show the boost and taking back one that's got some swarm cells in it. So we'll see y'all on the flip side. So I just found swarm cells in this one, so what I'm going to do, they're pretty light, but I'm going to skip the feed. I don't want to feed them if they're going to swarm or try to swarm. I mean, they are huge. I can't really blame them, honestly. So just kind of try to go through it, make sure there's none in the bottom. They were pretty fresh. The larva just had barely hatched out of the egg, so I don't expect there to be a lot, but it never hurts to check. I'm going to pack brood in the bottom. I'm going to checkerboard with some empty comb just a wee bit. Look at that. That's a big dude. Pretty. There's some kind of something right there. Those are cups. Now, considering how this one's gonna try to swarm, I would check the cups. But I'm actually gonna save this frame and find me a little single real quick to boost. Because that's a good hatching frame of bees and they need to get rid of it anyway. Just going through looking for swarm cells. I'm still not gonna feed them a lot. I'm gonna leave them with just enough resources to survive with. There's a little bit of food in here, never mind. I stand corrected, and that is a rotted box. I'm gonna leave them with that frame in the top. I'm gonna go ahead and shake that frame off, that way I don't have to worry about the queen being down there or nothing. That's a decent frame. That's a good frame of food. So yeah, they had a little bit of food in the top. That might have been why they were trying to swarm. They didn't have quite the comb room, which is fine. I'm gonna put the food on the wall here. I like to put a food on the wall of both sides of the bottom if I don't have a feeder. I'm gonna take the feeder out of this one because they don't need it, and give it to one that needs it. That's a good young brood to go in the bottom. I need to put it more towards the center of the cluster though. If you let's see, yeah, this will work. And then I'm gonna checkerboard them one in the bottom, empty comb right down the middle. That way they're kind of knocked back a little bit. Kind of mess them up a little bit just to make sure they don't take off on me or try to rebuild and do all that business. Yeah, that's probably enough food to last them till next trip comfortably. Oh boy. Looky here. Drone brood on a jacked up frame. I actually caught a swarm on that frame. Not necessarily trapped it, but I had some dead equipment from a guy who died that had bees, and this was what was in that. And before I got a chance to do anything with it, a swarm decided to move into it, so I just went ahead and threw it in the outfit. I don't have a whole lot of frames like this, but I've got a few now, thanks to that guy. I'm sure he's keeping bees in heaven. He was a real nice guy from what I know. He was a really good beekeeper. He did things a little old school and a little unorthodox, but I think he did fairly well with it when he was alive. I'm just checking all these real quick. Okay. So they got eggs and stuff there. Now, I'm going to slide a bunch of comb right here in the middle. Fully drawn comb is best when doing this number. You don't want to give them halvesy stuff. They're not entirely drawing right now. If I wanted to give them some thin liquid feed, I would. So I found me a good single to boost. It was a little small last time, I could tell, because I had most of the entrance screened off for robbing. They don't have a whole lot of food in here, but I'm gonna give them a boost. And these guys might be eligible for a box. At least some liquid feed. They're pretty light. I'm gonna go ahead and pull another frame out so I don't squish anybody. I have checked this frame of brood for a queen, so I'm pretty sure we're good. I do miss them occasionally. Yeah, I think we're good. So I'm just gonna stick that in there. They're almost, I don't know, I'll have to think about giving them a box. So this colony had swarm cells in it last time. I took the feeder out and I didn't feed it, and they've still got a good bit of weight, and I didn't see any swarm cells this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to slide a little bit of comb around and get a feel for just how much food they have. And if they need a little bit, I'll go ahead and feed them, because I think I knocked them back good enough to where it kind of knocked the swarm out of them a little bit. And if they got enough food, I'll just leave them with what they got. So I just hefted the bottom and there's plenty of weight, so I'm just gonna let them ride with what they got. They're growing pretty good. And they got weight in both boxes, so in fact I might actually take the food out of here if I need it. That one is a candidate for a brood to get a second box to finish off this pallet, and the one right in front of y'all is a candidate for just a couple more frames of food or whatever. And I think it got liquid feed. It did. I fed it through the box, that's right. So matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a frame out of this one, swap some comb in a frame because they got so much weight. And that'll probably do them up just fine. It'll be just what they need. They look like they got plenty of that. Let me go get them a comb. So I'm just now starting to use the last of this comb. It was stuff that had died and set over the winter time. There's a little bit of wax moth, but they'll clean that right up, especially with these big colonies. And I'm gonna stick it right down the middle. They're not in danger of swarming. And it's warming up now, so I feel more confident kind of splitting the brood nest a little bit. That and this colony's pretty big, so they'll be able to handle it. And she'll be laying in that probably, if not today, tomorrow for sure. That one's done. So as y'all can see, that one's pretty dang big. And it's not trying to swarm. That's just a great example of, you know, they'll build cups when they're real big. They don't necessarily are ready to swarm or anything. Now that's not to say if I'd have left these guys for another week they wouldn't have put an egg in there, you know what I mean? But as soon as you see a cup, the first thing that needs to hit your mind is my bees are doing good, they're not necessarily trying to swarm. It's a big misconception among a lot of beekeepers. Oh, they're making cups, they're going to swarm. That's not entirely true. They're just very wealthy at the time, I like to say. Since we're growing this one out, I'm going to go ahead and put a feeder in the bottom. Take a few of these frames out. A lot of this is actually food on the perimeter. You don't want to put brood directly up against your feeder. You want to give it a little bit of a buffer. A pollen frame or just a food frame works really well. Unfortunately, my bees are so bang up. That's a good one. There's a little bit of eggage there. So what I'm going to do is turn the pollen, and the eggs are on this side of the frame, so I'm going to turn that towards the brood nest, and the emptier side of the comb is going to be facing the feeder. Works out really good that way. And then I'm going to take this frame out, and that gives me just enough room to put my two broods in over on that side. Now, I don't necessarily have to find the queen. I'm just going to make a quick glance because I'm putting a lot of not invader bees, but I'm putting a lot of not her bees right on top of her and in and around her. And every once in a while, if you put too many foreign bees in a colony, they don't like it and they get ill and they try to kill her, and we don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one right in the middle, and then I'm going to put one right on the outskirts. Now her bees will protect her to an extent, but I think we'll be in the green because I'm going to check these others before I put this other one in just to make sure. And if I do find her, I'm going to put her in a population of about 2 frames of her own bees, and that'll protect her good enough until everybody's good and happy. I'm not going to splash them with sugar water because they're trying to rob real bad, and that might cause the opposite. Yeah, this will be a bang up colony for doing what I'm trying to do here. It'll be, let's see, 7 frames of brood in the bottom, and they'll have plenty of growing room to go up top. So, see a little maple pollen there. The maples are pretty much done to the south of us up where we live. That's interesting. Maybe a yard maple or something. I don't know. I didn't see her, so she could be crawling around on the box somewhere, which is fine. Not a super huge deal. Just enough. That is literally stretching my feed hose out a little bit. That's what you call perfect parking job right there. So I'm going to go get a second box for this. There might be, I'm going to try to get an empty one if I can. and split up the comb between these two colonies and kind of get them evened out a little bit. This one will have plenty of growing room. There was a lot of brood in that bottom, so this thing will blow up just about right for splits in the second weekend in March. It's not so bad. Usually I'll put some food up top, but for the most part that colony is going to come straight up. They've got good comb they can lay in immediately. They'll do fine with it. Now let's close up this other dude. 6 pallets. Well, I say that. It's more like 4.5 pallets down and quite a few more to go. So we're going to get into it, and if I see something worth filming, I'll do it. But if not, you know, that's just the name of the game. Equalizing, feeding, trying to keep them from killing each other, it looks like. So we'll get to it. So I stumbled across a laying worker, and I'm going to try to get to show y'all how I can tell. It had queen question mark on the lid. That's what alerted me first. I didn't see her last time, and it was really small. The brood looked kind of funny. And that, it looks like normal brood, but it's protruding out of the worker comb by like 1/8 of an inch when they're capping it off. So that, to me, says that's laying worker. That and the pattern's kind of shoddy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the biggest, baddest single in the yard. I got a lot of food frames left over in these boxes. I'm going to pack this thing full of food, find a single without a feeder in it, and stick it on top and let that single take care of all the business. No need to feed with all that food. I might stick a comb or two in the middle just so the queen can come up there and lay. But you find a good single and a laying worker like that, I might squirt them with a wee bit of sugar water. That's a good trick. You can use newspaper and stuff. I don't worry about all that. I usually squirt them, but sometimes I'll just put them together and not worry about it. If the single I'm sticking it on top of is big enough, they'll handle it. This is probably going to hurt a lot, but the one single I have is not actually big enough to take all that. So I'm just going to bounce the bees out, and then I'm going to carry it back there and let it ride. When you bounce them out like that, you don't really have to worry about soaking them as much. But if you just shake them out on the pallet like that, that looks kind of hectic, but they will slowly crawl in somewhere. And when they do, the colony of their choosing will take care of that laying worker, and they won't have to worry about it anymore. Those bees will kill that, and they'll kind of assimilate with their new sisters after that. I have shook them out before and found a queen on the bottom board, in which case she would be a drone laying queen, so we don't want her. But at any rate, she would be inferior. They would kill her, and better off without it. So one down, and 2, 4, 6 more pallets to go. We're getting there. I don't know what it is. I guess bees are lazy like people sometimes, but the corners are always bigger and generally have some more assets. These were a lot fuller than the rest. Some of them were, 1 or 2 of them were light, but it wasn't nothing, you know, drastically light. Maybe a frame or 2 lighter than the rest, but at any rate, as you can see, my boxes are absolutely superb. When they crumple under a hive tool, yeah. So that's our corners. That's a corner colony right there. That's 18 frames of bees, considering as how there's a feeder in there. It's probably 20 on the stretch. But yeah, so that's a bang up colony. Need a little comb. I got some comb and a dead nuke back here. I'm gonna swap, bring some food back with me, I guess. This is a pretty camera worthy moment. So most of these double deeps on this end are starting to look like this, which is what we want. I know that's kind of hard to see from the bottom, but what I see is brood on the bottom bars there. Across the, there's a little bit more. Across the center of the cluster. The box is fairly heavy. And then if you look down into the bottom, there's brood all the way to the wall. I don't know if y'all can see that real well or not. I might have to brighten it up. But anyway, so there's brood across the expanse of the box in the bottom. And then up in the top, there's a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna say 7, never mind, 8 frames span of brood. So that one's massive. No eggs in cups or nothing. They're fairly light, or excuse me, they're fairly heavy. So I'm not gonna feed them. I'm just gonna let them chew on it a little bit. I might take a frame or two out and boost a single back yonder. But that's what we want to see. That's a good looking colony. So we did it! Yay! I think this is our last colony for the day. I'm not sure if I've already done it or not. I know I popped the lid. A lot of food. Looks like from the top bars, I haven't hefted it or anything yet. Sorry to disturb y'all's interest there, middle of the boxes. Yeah, good little bit of food. Few cups, nothing in them. I like to look every once in a while. Oh man, I can feel the heat coming out of the nest. They're fanning pretty good, so let's see. That's fairly heavy. Oh boy, they sound pissed. I'm sure they're queen, right? They got, they're pretty not heavy. I'm gonna go ahead and top off their feeder, but other than that, they're pretty good. I might do a little frame swapping. Put some, if they got an empty one in the bottom, empty comb in the bottom, I might put it up top, just to kind of encourage her to go up there. But for the most part, it looks like they got the bottom filled out with brood. I don't know. Let's take a peek. A lot of bending over in the bee business. Well, that's a lot of pollen right there. Okay, so that one's getting moved up. Boy, the attackers have come in. There's some brood. We're just gonna kind of hunt through and see what we got here. There's some brood. Brood. Not really hard looking, just kind of creating a nest in the bottom here. Not a necessary step, but by golly, it's going to be helpful in the coming weeks to have the nest established in the bottom really, really well. Alright, that's brood-ish, young brood, pollen. And then I think this is our feeder frame. Yeah, that's a solid sheet of pollen right there. I don't know if y'all can see that real well. Nothing but pollen right there. So I'm going to put that on the feeder. Not on the feeder, but next to the feeder. Yeah, so we just need one brood to move for this somewhat empty comb here. We may have it and we may not. There might be a halvesy frame up here that's got brood a good ways up. I don't know. Man! I tell you what, you want to collect some propolis, get you some Caucasians. They'll do it for you, buddy. They didn't spare no expense on sticking stuff together. Friggin' liquid nails of beekeeping right here. Yeah, that's a good brood frame. I'm gonna just slide that down here. Slide that chute. Put this bad dude back on top. And that's pretty heavy. The feed might have been a little much. I'm gonna be back in 10 days to graft. So, you know, if something needs moved around or sorted, I can get it going. So right down the middle with you. And there might be a frame up here that's not entirely food that could go. Yep, there's one. Yeah, it's pretty much food. But we're going to put it in the middle. Maybe they'll chew it out. Not in between brood though. Just a little bit closer to the edge of the brood nest. There we go. And then this one can go on this wall. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, wee wee. There's a comb right there. Good empty comb. That's perfect for right flush down the middle. She'll come up in there, lay that up. Yeah. Be good to go, bro. Alright, sweet. We're done. Packing up, getting ready to head to North Georgia. What I'm hunting for is colonies with entrances that need to be squeezed down, which they're all pretty big and they could probably defend it, but a lot of my boxes have holes and gaps and stuff. There's a prime example. They're just going right in and out of that, and that's just more, that's a whole nother entrance for the bees to have to defend. So why not just go ahead and reduce the entrance down a good ways, and then, you know, I think it would help out a little bit. I don't know, it might be worse for them. I'm not sure. What's really not good for them is when the lids stay cracked like that. Like I was saying, I'm just looking for colonies that are getting picked on real hard. A lot of them already got sticks and stuff shoved in the entrance. And the big worry is the singles, but oddly enough, it looks like they're not getting picked on too bad. So I think we're good. Now, that one is getting robbed, but it's also massive and it's also got a stick in the front already. I'm gonna go ahead and replace that because it looks like I messed it up when I was kind of digging in and around there. You want to just stick it in there real good, sorry bee, where robber bees can't get in, and that stick's got a wee bit too much of a curve to it, but that'll help a lot. Maybe not so much with this, but it's actually declined quite a bit since I started working. But anyway, they'll fight them off. They're stout. 60, 61 colonies over there. I lost a couple. One of them went queenless, went into laying worker. Yeah, I am burnt and stung up, but we got her done. Those are going to be ready to split. I'm going to do my first graft March the 2nd, and then that following weekend I'm going to split them out into queen mating nukes and haul them around to a few separate yards. I'm going to make them 2 frames of brood and a frame of food if I can. Food might be an issue and food might not be an issue. Brood's definitely not going to be an issue. That's a good 12 frame, 13 frame average of brood there. Incorporating the small ones on the conservative side of things. They're big old colonies. I fed most of them. The ones that were trying to swarm this time I didn't feed. I just made sure I left them with a few frames of food to survive for the next 10 days. I might feed them the next time I come down. I'm going to bring aforementioned grafting supplies and stuff like that. Jeff Stalvey is going to let me use his breeders for this first graft. It's one of Bob's daughters, queens. Whenever we get ready to do that, it'll be somewhat my stock, but it's going to be open mated with stuff that's down here, and so we'll see. But anyway, so we did good. I think we was only out here for like 5 hours. It takes a minute when you're filming and doing everything by yourself and yawing and keeping stuff from robbing, and it's tough. It's tough. But anyway, so we'll see y'all on the flip side.